Good evening. Good evening. We're going to get started. This is board session January 21st. Madam Chair, Madam Clerk,
Madam President, we have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Thank you. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Gilkison, want to lead it?
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And 2.4 is our annual organizational meeting. I do want to make an announcement. I have decided to step down as board president. I've thought about it for a long time, even before I became president, and I thought about it since. It's a hard decision to make, but I have to listen to my heart and do what I think is right. So I want to thank the board members for electing me. I really take it as an honor and appreciate it. And I also want to thank the Chancellor, our board counsel, VC Sada, VC Whitaker, VC Siri Brown. I want to thank you all, and Brenda Martinez, our clerk, for helping me during this past year. I want to particularly thank Jelena Bonilla for being with me during the year that I was vice president. I learned a lot from her, and it was quite a intense, tough year, I think, but this year will be better. And I also want to thank those people who actually supported me running and then supported me making the decision that I did. So I look forward to a really, really good year. I'm excited about the year. I think that we have a lot of work to accomplish. I believe every trustee has something special to offer. And I think the one thing that we all agree upon is that we love this district and we want to make it really, really good. And I'm sure that we're all going to work together to do that. I'm stepping back and just being an elected board member, and I will continue as a board member to stand up for the things that I feel strongly and passionately about. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Okay, so now can I have nominations for president?
Nomination for Jelena.
Okay. Okay, so we have a nomination for Jelena, and I hear a second. Can we have a vote? Oh, are there any other nominations?
Yes. Trustee Withrow.
Okay, there's a nomination for Trustee Withrow. So first, we're going to do the first nomination. Okay, all those in favor of Trustee Bonilla, say, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Contreras.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
No.
Trustee Handy.
No.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen.
Yes.
Trustee Napolia-Bellaris.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
No.
Trustee Weinstein.
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the president of the board, who's Trustee Jelena Bonilla. Okay.
For the president, I'd like to, at this point in time, reverse my vote to a positive.
Okay. Okay. Now, can we move on to the vice president?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Cynthia Bellaris.
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Withrow.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay. Board clerk.
So we're
Student-
voting on the first one first?
We are voting on Trustee Napoli Bellarice. Student Trustee Contreras?
Can I get some time on this?
Sure. Trustee Withrow?
No.
Trustee Handy?
We're talking about Cynthia Bellarice now? No. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
No.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
We'll go back to the student trustees. Student Trustee Contreras?
Can I abstain my vote?
Yes. Student Trustee Stanley, we're voting for Vice President. Trustee Napoli Bellarice? Yes. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we take a recess and so we can change chairs. Okay?
Switch seats.
I can breathe again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to take a couple of minutes, a few seconds. One, to thank Karen Weinstein for serving as vice president last year in 2019. Like you said, it was a very challenging year, but productive. And appreciate you also stepping forward in 2019, I'm sorry, in 2020, and look forward to working with the entire board this year. So thank you again. We will go ahead and proceed with action from closed session. Vice President Reese?
There was no action taken at closed session.
Thank you. We will move forward with 2.6, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion
So moved.
and a second? Thank you, and roll call, please.
I've got a couple of items I would like to remove from consent to action, please.
Okay.
Item 5.2, this is a board policy. And then item 8.1 is personnel items. I'd like to raise a question about item 10.5 where it refers to attachment 1, but attachment 1 in my copy was completely blank. There was a second document. Was that meant to be the attachment number 1?
10.5 is in action. It's the very last item in your packet.
10.5 has to do with the easement at the College of Alameda, and there,
It's an action.
it is in, okay, it's in action. We'll
It's
come
in
back to that.
action.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Okay, so it looks like we're moving 5.2 and 8.1 into action.
Thank you.
The motion's been properly moved, and we'll go ahead and take roll call.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Item 2.7, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, please.
Who's the second?
Abella.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Item 2.8, Associated Student Government Reports. Student, please come to the podium. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy New Year. Hello, we're back. So, hi, my name is Israel. I serve as the ASCOA president, and this is my last term. So, whoop. Anyhow, just to share my reports. So, ASCOA had a great retreat, and it was a great opportunity for us to review our pluses and deltas from the past semester. And we also had gained clarity on what AS is like in the Peralta district system. It's two faces, which is the legislative advocacy side and the programming side. And also this week at College of Alameda, we do have Welcome Week happening. So today there is an info booth, and tomorrow there will be a student center open house with food. And then on Thursday there will be a culminating event with food again. And I am looking forward to collaborating with other AS Senates so that we can share our best practices and identify key issues that is common amongst the colleges and here in the district. And we are also happy to have, we would be happy to have the student trustees join us in that meeting. Thank you.
So good evening, Board of Trustees and Chancellor Stroud. My name is Spencer Staggers-Elmore. I'm the Associate Students of Merritt College Student Body President. And of course, I wanted to say Happy New Year to begin with, just as to echo College of Alameda. But I also had some talking points I wanted to bring up since we are beginning our semester. I thought it'd be important to address, such as under enrollment in class cutoffs to essential majors. It's affecting a lot of students, not just from unpopular majors, but also popular majors such as communications, real estate, administration, and justice. Of course, our school is very supportive and listens to our student body and tries to find alternatives for them, but sometimes some students can't find substitutes for classes that they need just for that one class to just get their degree. And I don't think that's fair. And I think that's also a Peralta-wide issue. So if anything could be addressed by the board about that kind of an issue, I know our campus is doing a lot. I don't know Peralta-wide, that's an issue I wanted to bring up. Another issue is more of having options for students. I've noticed a lot of students are traversing through all 4 campuses, not by choice, but mostly because they want to fulfill requirements. And I know there's a thing called like the Peralta Swirl, which is to get students to go to all 4 campuses, but let it be a choice, not something of where it's a requirement for them to have to do that for their degree or major, which is not a class that they can't. It's like they have to go to that campus for that class. So let it be a choice for them. And another one is that I did attend an international student orientation here at the district, which I'm happy that we are housing a lot of international students, but it made me realize that there is an issue with financial, or like finding financial support, not just for international students, but like jobs that are out of work study for students in general. So, because I know international students can't really work the first year off of campus. It's part of the agreement that they have with Peralta is that they can't work outside of the district. Which is fine, but just at least offering them things, because I know, especially at Merritt, a lot of the jobs that we have for students are under work study, and we know they can't get financial aid. So at least offering that kind of financial support, not just for international students, but also just students in general that are out of work study who can't get financial aid, because we know how tricky that system can be, would be much appreciated as well. Other than that, we are going through Welcome Week. This is the beginning of semester. I'm excited. It is my last semester as well. But I think there is another one. I wanted to bring up my former student body president because we also have another talking point. I'd like to introduce Miss Eunice Johnson.
Hola. It's been a while since I talked to y'all. It's been almost a whole semester. I got the mic. Don't worry. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so as y'all know, I am a TV with no remote because I'm not going to be silenced, nor will I allow to myself to be silenced. I just wanted to, and I've talked to my president about, or not president yet, but president, you know, we hope in 2020. And he's like very supportive of everything that we do talk about, but I do want to make sure to put this out there. If no one knew, there's 115 colleges in the state of California that are all community colleges. And of course, we don't get enough funding. Of course, we never have enough resources to put everywhere. Of course, we don't have this and that and this and that. But I think something that we do need to pay attention to, especially since times are diversing and becoming more array as you would say, we still need to look at data. So like 70% of our students across the entire state of the system is mentally ill or cannot sustain themselves due to like seeing things and not being able to talk to somebody, or literally not having a counselor to understand their feelings and to talk them through it. There's no reason of me seeing someone on a campus that is a counselor and can only academically counsel me. There's no point in having that position to me if you cannot mentally counsel me at the same time. Because it is a lot to have to add classes, to have to figure out a freaking schedule, to have to plan out when you're going to be late is you know. And so I think like just as we're going through, and I know you guys have probably already talked about your budget for this year and stuff like that, but like definitely for next year, as we're looking through things like this, more of our resources need to start going towards mental health. More of her resources need to start going towards making sure that students can get there, which way or whatever. Because right now, our percentages that we're seeing, as we've already learned during Flex Day, that 33% of our students enrollment has went down across the district is unheard of. And I'm pretty sure that is because we do not have enough services to help them. We barely have any services that are cultural to them to help them. So now we're making them feel like that they're not able to be here on this campus unless they are culturally colored in a way. Again, I love all of y'all. I love talking about issues. Everyone knows I want to be a congresswoman, but I also want to make sure that people know that I am here for education. I am a Black woman in America that has to fight every day to get what I want. And the fact that there are other people who are not my skin tone that have to deal with less than I have to deal with is unheard of. It's undeniable. And the fact that we're in community colleges telling people that in the community, you are heard, we're here for you, and we're making it harder for them, that doesn't speak community to me at all. It only speaks as a college. And the fact, like my community college, my college feels like a community. It feels like a family to me. They are here for me. When I break down, David is there. When I break down, there is someone in financial aid there. The fact that there are many colleges here not being here, and the fact that we're even talked about today, and it could be bad sometimes, it could be misheard or miswritten, but like Peralta isn't a district that people like to talk about all the time anymore. And I think we need to start changing that. Again, I love y'all, and I'm sorry I was, all up in there like that, but again, you had to be heard, you had to hear it.
That concludes our report.
Hello, distinguished board. This is my first time coming here to present for Berkeley City College. My name is Jake Mahari. I'm a senator at BCC. And I had a few announcements during the first week of spring of 2020. So this week that we just started, Tuesday, January 21st through Friday, we are having college hour. During our college hour, we're having our welcome week. So it's when we have activities every day, kind of just like new activities that help bring people in, welcome people back into classes. Our AS has talked about doing more of like a student tour around campus. I mean, I know Berkeley City College isn't a real like big campus that people need to give it a tour from, but there are a lot of things that I found serving through as a senator that people actually aren't aware of in terms of location on campus. Things like the student lounge, counseling offices, teacher work hours before class are things that people can really benefit from knowing of their location beforehand. That is, so this entire week on Tuesday, which was today, we were serving tacos during college hour. Wednesday, we have our resource fair will be taking place where the students can learn about services BCC has to offer in the atrium, and we have pizza provided. On Thursday, Campus Life will greet students going to and from classes with coffee and cookies at the Welcome Center. And Friday, students will be able to play games and learn more about BCC's student government during social hour, and social hour will be held in the atrium. So we're doing a lot of events welcoming people in. Our student senators are really excited to get started on our Senate projects. Each student senator at BCC actually has their own project that they head up, and it's basically can be any project that benefits the general student populace in a certain way. Last semester, my student project was to find a way to team up with the campus life, to team up with this as well as student ambassadors at the school, and find a way to ease the process of finding housing as a BCC student, because as you know, being a community college student and then also Berkeley City College, we don't have many resources in place to offer people housing. It's just not there, so you can't give what's not there. But we found a way, me and my fellow student ambassadors and student senators, we headed up a program that we have up on the Berkeley City College website now. You can actually go onto the housing page for Berkeley City College and find more resources that we have put into place that weren't there previously. We have a housing availability form and a housing needed form where students who have housing available, who are looking for roommates, and students who need housing can connect. We've created that forum online, and it's there on the website right now. So we have taken the initiative to try and provide what we can. We know that as student government, we can't do everything we want to, but there's definitely things we can do to put the steps forward to make a better community for Berkeley City College. So thank you, everyone.
Good evening, Board and the Chancellor. My name is Vicki Ferguson. I'm the Vice President of Student Services at Laney College. I'm filling in on behalf of Terrence Williams, our ASLC President. He asked that I share about Welcome Week this week, activities. Today, they participated in Tie-Dye Tuesday, were showing their Laney spirit. Tomorrow, they will host a campus and community resource carnival, as well as a resource carnival next week for our evening students. In addition, on Friday, kicking off the Lunar New Year celebration. And in February, we'll kick off Club Rush, as well as student elections. Thank you.
Thank you for those reports. Let's go ahead and move to 2.9, Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Good evening, President Bonilla, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Stroud, presidents, and guests. Tonight, we only have one campus report. The other classified senates have not yet met. This report is from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. The Berkeley City College Classified Senate wishes everyone a productive new year. Last year, on December 18th, the Classified Senate met specifically to review the classified staff prioritization. Because the Senate did not receive staffing or program reviews prior to receiving the request for prioritization, they could not make an informed decision at that time. They agreed to request reporting and use the upcoming College Flex Day on January 17th to review and set the classified prioritization. They also discovered that BCC does not have a mechanism in place to trigger such reviews for proactive actions. The Senate will work with the college to put one in place. In that regard, they will also be reviewing the charter language to include such actions and craft an amendment accordingly. In summary, the Berkeley City College Classified Senate met on Friday, January 17th, during the BCC Flex Day activities to identify committee members to participate on the staff prioritization. They received program review materials and will make a determination later this month. The Senate also identified shared governance committees that still needed classified participation and will be recruiting participants. During the week of January 13th, a survey on 2-year goals and strategic planning was sent out to classified staff. The results will be reviewed in February. That's the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your attention and continued support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2.10, District Academic Senate Report.
Happy New Year, President Bonilla, members of the Board of Trustees, the Chancellor, and the presidents, and I'd like to say hello to Debbie and David, who's the acting president now. What I'd like to give thanks to in terms of this new year was the amazing job done for Flex Day. I'm sure the Chancellor will report on it, but I wanted to acknowledge Scott Yoshida and the people who worked at putting together a really excellent program on the Thursday, and also to acknowledge that at each of the campuses, the PD committees that worked on their activities. I thought it was very good in the sense that there were interactions that Scott provided, interactive workshops, and I particularly liked the youth theater that came and presented and did some skits. It resonated with all of the people that were there, and the questions and answers asking about, the experiences of youth. And I thought that it really critically shows the kind of work and concern that our faculty engage in on a daily basis with students, and the type of excellent programs that we have in terms of programs for the array of people who come to our doors. And so I think that the Flex Day was excellent. I want to speak to briefly about some of my concerns. I sent a FAS out regarding a special meeting that we had with the District Academic Senate. And one of the things that I said in this FAS was that I was concerned that at the Flex Day, there was an exchange and an issue at the Flex Day where there was discussions, and these discussions and subsequent emails on FAS really showed me that we really need to have some critical discussions around race and racism, because people's perceptions always then frame how you respond and engage with one another. I think that what it showed was that there are different ways that people engage and what they perceive, and that created a bit of a stir, and ultimately the email responses in terms of from faculty member. And part of what I sent out was that even though we here at Peralta like to see ourselves as being equity-minded and social justice, we have a hard time talking some real critical discussions around race, around ethnicity, around communities. And I really want to challenge this board, and I want to challenge the Chancellor, that this is the kind of thing as an educational institution we need to do. It's part of that development and growing. And I think that faculty as well as students and classified, all of us need to have those discussions. The dynamics of it were interesting. You could certainly look at it on our YouTube of the event. But my concern is not to criticize either side or the multiple sides, but to say, why don't we have those critical discussions? And so I encourage people in the next coming weeks and days to really query whether at their colleges or in the district, how do we go about having those kinds of discussions? Because I really do think that when we're out there and we're really talking about who we are and what we're about and what occurs, I think it would all be really beneficial in terms of what we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We will move to public comments, public communications. VP Reese?
We have 7 comments. I will name them one at a time. Dr. Van Hook.
Thank you so much. If I can get 2 of our people who will speak with us. I think we had about 3 or 4 cards. Okay.
Anita Black, Andrew Peck.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you to the board trustee and to the trustees and to the chancellor and to the presidents and to the staff and the people. We are just now closing out our Martin Luther King speeches. My last one was last night. And as I close that down, we start our African American history speeches. And I am the new elected president in 2020 for the Peralta African American Association and Affairs, which we now know as PAW. I am excited, and I'm going to, first of all, I just want to say welcome to Dr. Strauss, who is our first African American elected female in this district's history. And if you all don't mind, let's give her a hand publicly. Congratulations to you. I would like for Ms. Anita to give just a little brief history on Paul, and then Dr. Little, if you can come and give us a little data, and I will come back and let you know what Paul is done, and what we intend to do, and we need your support and your help.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hook. Trustees, presidents, chancellor, and executive leadership of this district. I'm here as a transition. As Dr. Van Hook stated, we have elected all new officers in PA. But I'm here, we're here today because there are still some troubling concerns that we have as an organization in this district. So for those of you that are new, bear with me, but I'd like to give a brief history
of the organization and our affiliation. In 1968, there was a major group of Black educators that organized during the annual convention for the American Association of Community Colleges. PA, or Peralta, played a key role. We have at least 2 or 3 founders in that organization, which was established in 1972, known as the National Council of Black American Affairs, which was the first affiliate council for AACC. So PA is the oldest chapter in that organization. We are affiliated with the Western Regional Council of Black American Affairs. We co-hosted the last regional, which was held at the Chabot-Las Positas district, specifically at Chabot College. And we played a key role there as well. So I wanted to kind of give some substance and a bearing as to why we're here. And before I turn it back over, which Dr. Littles will be speaking to, and also Dr. Van Hook, if you have not seen it, I want to bring your attention to the status of African American students in Peralta colleges. It's dreadful, and you need to take a look at it if you haven't. So our goals of the national organization are the same. For PA, we are aligned directly with that. And I guess without further ado, I'll turn it over. And I'd like to thank Dr. Siri Brown for doing that report.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? So, my name is Dr. Littles, and I've been working for Peralta for about three and a half years. And my background is include K through 12, working and recruiting special populations, mainly at Cowsmont High School, East Oakland. My current position is I'm a transition manager for the adult ed grant. And the data from the Community College of California is saying there's about 69,000 people in this area who are unrepresented. And I almost guarantee you that 69,000 people are centered in East Oakland. And within East Oakland, I have 2 offices outside of Peralta. I have an office at the parole office, and I also have an office at the social services at Eastmont Mall. And the reason I had decided to go to those 2 places because there is a segment of our population that I feel that I have concerns about that have not been identified, that are not being recruited into Peralta and Pacific Merritt College anymore. I think there is a disconnect in recruiting these individuals. I get calls from Cowsmont. I get calls from Skyline High School. Why is there no one out here recruiting our African American students? And that is a big concern for me. I am doing this job because I've been in this community. I understand this community. I understand the needs of this community. And if we don't address these issues about recruiting, continue to recruit our African American students into the Peralta system in the sense of special programs, funding for these programs, and an effort to recruit these individuals. We're going to continue, even though we're having a demographic change we still need to focus in recruiting these students. And I just want to kind of throw some numbers out there that are concerning. And these numbers are coming from Peralta research. So the course completion rate for African Americans, well, let's start off with white students, is 72%. For Hispanic students, it's 62%, and for African American students, it's 58%. And this trend is continuing to trend down, and this is from 2018 and 19. For the course retention rate for the course retention rate for degrees and certificate award through a person's ethnicity. For the 2018-19, there were 635 white students who received either a certificate or an award. For Asians, there were 1,184. For African Americans, there were 721. So this data shows that there is a specific need to increase the funding for a specific program and also to have a concentration on recruiting our students. What can I do to make sure that this trend stops? I can continue what I'm doing by recruiting from the social service, the welfare office, and when I'm down there, I can recruit 10 or 15 students per day because there's a need down there. Those students in that population really need to and really have a desire to come to college. What can you do? You guys can make sure that the funds are there to continue for some of these wraparound programs for the specific population, and I think that's really important. I can also make sure that and inform our president, Dr. Johnson, of the need and the importance of continue to represent this population. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Little. I'm so excited. You left your hat, buddy. I'm so excited. As young as I am, I still got a lot of energy. And so I'm excited about the position. Let me just kind of give you a small briefer because I know you're tired of us already, but let me see if I can run it down real quickly. There's so many things that we have going on in this year. Our focus and our theme for 2020 is focus. We need to focus on making sure that the students succeed. Paul is interested in the welfare of students. We have 6 scholarships that we actually provide students. We've given over $50,000 in scholarships. We will continue that effort. We're concerned about the African American students that don't have places to live. We're trying to partner to make sure that our students have adequate housing so that we can make sure that they come to school and matriculate well. We are actually trying our best to make sure that we have enough money in our programs like Umoja so that we can make sure that all of our students have the appropriate resources, have the appropriate access to tutors and everything that we need both in the district and out of the district. Over 12 years ago, as a matter of fact, Trustee Handy and a few others helped us to start an African American graduation. One of the greatest things that I'm excited about, this is our 12th year, 40% each year, according to the data, 40% of our graduates were first-time graduates every year out of approximately 40 per year. And so I'm excited about the opportunities that we have to move forward in the stand, and I stand on the shoulders of those who've come before me since '68, and since Paul has been around, it has made sure that the African American, both faculty, staff, students, and administrators had a voice that would speak to the hiring practices of our staff, of our administrators, and then culturally competent people that can meet the needs of the students. Again, if you look at the data, please, I want you to make sure that you look at the data. The African American students in math and those certain subjects that are STEM related are so clear and key that we make sure that we get the people who can help us with tutoring, the things that we need to make sure that we actually have them to leave here and become successful in our society. I want to thank you all for this time that you've allowed us to share, and we will be sending out information that you can participate in some of the events that we have and some of the scholarship opportunities that we have. Let me just name them for you. The Dr. David Simon Scholarship, Vicky Reedus Scholarship. The Peralta Foundation has a scholarship that it gives. Dr. Odell and Virginia Educational Scholarship Fund, Dr. Herring and his scholarship fund, Carter Gilmore and their scholarship fund as well. So we're doing what we can to begin to make awareness to people, to let you know that we are interested in those who have been left behind and who have not been considered a part of our moving structure as we move forward. So we need your support. I want to thank those of you who have allowed us to participate in all of the functions at Peralta District. Thank you.
There you go.
Andrew Park, Fred Bourgeois, and Chris Weidenbach. Burgoyne. Sorry.
Hello, members of the board, representatives. Thank you for this opportunity to speak before you. My name is Andrew Park. I teach physics at College of Alameda. I'm also the campus co-chair for College of Alameda. I just wanted to speak to you on 2 points. The first is on our ongoing contract negotiation. Our negotiation team informed us that we received a new offer last weekend. We are very appreciative of the new offer, and we hope that this represents a real way for us to secure living wage for part-time faculty and real increases for all workers at Peralta. So thank you. And our negotiation team is still looking at it. They haven't told us, those of us who are not on the team, what the details are yet. The second point is on the ongoing class cuts and cancellations. You heard report from the Merritt student body how class cancellations are hurting our students, and because these disproportionately impact our part-time faculty, our part-time committee has made this a point to that's something that we need to work on as a district. And I want you to share some numbers that you can put to the stories that you have heard from our students, how we are hurting our students and faculty, and we may possibly be hurting our own institution. So these are the numbers from our system. In fall 2019, Peralta district-wide, we canceled 617 sections. These sections had 2,310 students in it at the time when they're canceled. This is unduplicated head count. Some of these students were in more than one canceled section. Of these 2,310 students, 376 students did not enroll in any classes at Peralta for the fall 2019. I'm only guessing here, but I am guessing we turned away almost 400 students away from Peralta because we canceled the classes on them. And even though fall is the semester in which we canceled historically large number of classes, it's not the only semester in which we have done this. In spring 2019, we canceled 415 sections. These canceled classes at the time when they were canceled had 1,933 students, unduplicated head count in them. Of these 1,933 students, 228 students did not enroll in any Peralta classes that semester. And we have ongoing data in spring semester, spring 2020. This is the first day of semester. First day of semester, we have already canceled 232 sections so far this semester. These cancellations affected 1,036 students, and of these 1,036 students so far, 65 students are not enrolled in any classes at Peralta. And this number may go up as some students drop classes. Sometimes when we cancel classes on students, it affects their other decisions. As we struggle with the declining enrollment, I have to pose this question: how much of difficulty is a self-inflicted wound? Thank you.
Good evening, trustees, chancellor, vice chancellors, presidents, yay. Those guys do work. You too. I know, Sierra, don't look at me like that. I had two quick things. First of all, sorry, Cindy. bourgeois and bourgoin have the same root, but they mean very different things. You're forgiven. I wanted to address two very quick things. Number one, to congratulate someone on, you're going to approve another contract tonight under item 8.1. So this is someone who's gotten 2 contracts in 2 weeks with the district. I want to do that. Let me know how I can do that. That's awesome. 6 figures each. Nice. I know that last time one of the trustees brought up the issue of conflict of interest, and that was rebutted with a legal argument that conflict of interest was based on money. I would like to reiterate that, perhaps not in the legal sense, but for someone to be in charge of investigations and also be the chief of staff of the chancellor at the same time seems a little icky to me. Nothing about the person himself. I don't know him. I don't know anything about that. That's the number one. Number two, we were told last week at Flex Day that our FAS distribution lists were going to be restricted in terms of access and who has access to them. The Laney Senate, Faculty Senate reacted today and passed a resolution, which we forwarded to the Chancellor, and she responded within half an hour. That's the fastest response I've ever gotten. So we are looking forward to working with you, Chancellor, on resolving that issue so that everybody is okay with this, so that you're okay with what happens, and we don't feel like we're being stifled in our communication. One of the reasons that you mentioned was misinformation, to stop the misinformation and vitriol. Vitriol, yeah, we know it happens over FAS. Crazy is everywhere. We got it. Okay, that's what the delete button is for. Misinformation. I heard a former student leader say that we've had a 33% decline in enrollment recently over 5 years. I'm sorry, where did she get that from? Because that's false. That's false. The biggest decline we've seen over 5 years is 12%, not 33%. VC Brown can back me up on this. She's the one who collects the numbers. So, I'm out of time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bourgoin.
He takes Bourgoin too. People call him that all the time. But good evening. I'm Chris Weidenbach, department chair in English at Laney, and I have a very brief, calm comment to make. I'm not going to use those 3 minutes. I would just like to invite anyone who really cares about enrollment management to definitely think of it beyond this troubling term, although it has some worthy efficiency ideas behind it. The troubling term is productivity, and I think that's part of enrollment management thinking, but it's only part of it. I was encouraged actually to see Dr. Brown's email this afternoon about FTES, and I feel like that's where our concern needs to be. So I agree with the gentleman with the snazzy hat. I think there's a combination of forces that we need to think about together. Our outreach, our marketing throughout the district, I guess, has been soft, and it seems to be gearing back up a little bit, and that's really good news. I don't know, I'm not sure of her name. I think her first name is Janine. She spoke at the District Flex Day and introduced the theater company. It might be Janine Greer, not sure, mental health counselor, I believe, at BCC. She said something really important there that I think everybody in the room, I hope everybody in the room vibed with, which is that we don't do decline letters. And we're a lot of people's only chance. for educational pathways and uplift. And I just don't see it over the years. I'm going into my 20th year of teaching at Laney. Thank you. And I've seen a kind of disappearance of, it's not necessarily based on ethnicity, but I've seen a disappearance, a slow fade, if you will, in students who just in various ways show that they haven't got their educational chops all together. They haven't had good experiences necessarily with education. In various ways, again, showing us that they really need us. And I think Janine's message was we need to keep reaching out to all of those students, those prospective students, those underserved students and neighborhoods. And I think East Oakland is where the center of that needed outreach needs to take place. I guess am I really using my... I wanted to say on the ground today in the Welcome Center, stuffed with students. In the counseling floor was thronging with students. Again, admissions and records, there was a line 25, 30 students long all day, right? They want classes, they need classes, and I'm told as a department chair that we don't have enough FTEF to add the additional sections that there's clearly student demand for. We need more FTEF. Thank you very much.
That concludes our public communication.
Thank you for that. Chancellor.
Yes, I have a few things for the Chancellor's report, and the first thing I'd like to do is take a point of personal privilege, Trustee Bonilla and members of the board, in welcoming Dr. Debbie Budd as the interim president for Berkeley City College. Yeah. So glad to have you back here. We'll be doing a search for the Berkeley City College president, but we sure are glad to have somebody that knows this district and knows this college community and is committed to it to be here for us during that time. So thank you. The next thing I'd like to say is, when you make a mistake in public, I think you have to, when you do things really loud in public, I think you also have to apologize in public. Professor Bourgoin, did I get that right? Voilà, merci. Mentioned that the number of 30% decline in enrollment has been put out there, and asked where did he get that from. He was being polite. It came from me. And I can tell you that this is where it comes from. During the part of the process when I applied for this position, I did a lot of studying of the data. When I studied the data, I had what was available on the Chancellor's data mart. And the Chancellor's data mart did show that. But it showed that, I have come to discover, it showed that because this district borrowed from a summer. So it looked like it was a 30% decline. It was not. It's been a 12 to 14% decline, depending on where you look at it and what numbers, what point in time. That said, that is significant. Still, you're talking about double-digit declines. So it still is significant. We don't take our eye off the prize in terms of making sure that we build back up the enrollment, but I do want to clarify for that for the record publicly. And then the next thing I want to say is the faculty are absolutely right that we're paying attention to right size in the institution. And I understand the concerns, and we want to make sure that we are having things available for students and they have access to classes. So when you listen to the numbers that were read out, where you had 670 sections and it had 2,310 students, or where you had 415 section that had 1,933 students, or so forth, even if you have those sections and those numbers, I trust that those numbers are correct. It calculates out to the section having from anywhere, if they were evenly distributed, and they're not, some have more, some have less, it calculates out to a section having anywhere from 3.4 students per section, 4.6 students per section or 5 students per section. So in having a conversation about productivity, while it is not the only issue, it is a significant factor that has to be taken into consideration. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention as we're thinking about these numbers so that we don't reduce it to this conversation about numbers. It's very real responsibility and stewardship of the public's resources. The other thing I would like to say is that we had a wonderful Flex Day. I am pleased to announce that I got a standing ovation from PFT. The entire time I talked, it was exciting. I could not have been more pleased. And then I gave a wonderful address and then got another standing ovation from the audience in the room. So thank you to everybody who showed all that love. Thank you to Scott Hoshida and the team at Merritt and the team that did everything they could to make sure the faculty had a perfect Flex Day. It was an awesome event. There was a tremendous amount of support for making sure the faculty had a wonderful day, and I tried to deliver to make sure that as well. And in that Flex speech, I did articulate a vision that I would like to make each of the colleges in the Peralta Community College District. My vision is that each of the colleges become models of excellence, that we make Peralta a great place to work with fair pay and respect for all, that we make Peralta the major source of social and cultural capital for our communities, and that we make Peralta an even more vital economic engine for the community. Of course, we will have that vision informed and expanded, but off the top of my head, I can see that in Peralta's future easily. And then I also appreciate Professor Moore's challenge around having the kinds of conversations, particularly around the racial conversations that need to take place. This chancellor welcomes an increase in critical consciousness and racial literacy, and it is absolutely the field I love playing in. So I welcome that as well. Before I call on the presidents to share with you some information from the colleges, I would like to share with you a little bit of a presentation about this leadership. Can we get that up? As you know, when we came in, we looked at the CBT recommendations, and many of the recommendations were around processes, around leadership, around practices that threatened the fiscal integrity of the district. I also recognized when I got here that there were lots of conversations about the culture in the district. There were experiences people were having where they had to come to work every day, and they were having types of experiences that many people get to not have in their workplace. And in trying to address it, I convened the leadership throughout the district to have a retreat. In here, we did it in this room. Every administrator in the district was invited, and we had a facilitated discussion. And they were invited for the express purpose of establishing leadership standards of excellence. So if I can have that presentation pulled up. In establishing the leadership standards of excellence, if you go to the next slide, I basically said to the administration, I asked that we show up differently. Now, what does that mean? That means faculty, staff, and students have the right and deserve to have the experience of an educational institution that is rich in educational leadership and rich in leadership excellence and leading with a purpose. And it requires us, as we occupy our positions of influence and consequence, to have the professional and political will to consciously choose and do the right things on behalf of the students and the community. It thrives with having a personal humility that no one person can move this effort, and that we have to cultivate leaderships at all levels of the organization. So the idea is that when we walk in the room, when we are serving the community, that we show up differently. If you go to the next slide, you can see that we did a lot of work identifying our values as a leadership team. People came together. There was a facilitated set of exercises and a facilitated conversation so that we could define those values. And we were looking to move toward, at the next slide, move toward making sure that we build a high-performance team. And that means that we get to level 5 leadership so that we could basically build the kind of enduring greatness that this district deserves to have access to. It means that there are expectations, different expectations as leaders. It means that we recruit differently, we select differently. It means that we develop each other differently, and we evaluate and hold ourselves and each other accountable differently. If you go to the next slide, we acknowledge that, but there's a lot of history and there's a lot of stuff, and we have the real leadership teams that exist right now. And so we looked at the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and as a matter of fact are undergoing at the district level, the executive administration is undergoing that assessment, and at the college levels, the college presidents are working with their teams to look at the 5 dysfunctions of the team so that we can end up being high-performance teams where you have results, accountability, where there is a commitment that you're willing to engage in constructive conflict, and that there is trust among that team. And that is what ultimately resulted in us developing what's called the Leadership Standards of Excellence, the Peralta Community College District Leadership Standards of Excellence. A shortened version of them are there right there for you, but we also have a handout for you that gives the expanded version of the Leadership Standards of Excellence. And just let me tell you what that means. It means that we have agreed to these standards of excellence in leadership and how we do our work. And it means that we include this in the job descriptions when we search for leaders in this district. It means that it's incorporated in the evaluations of the administrators that are part of the leadership team. It means that when I'll give you an example of one piece. Like one part of the leadership standard of excellence is about being responsive. The colleges are counting on the district to support the colleges and serve the colleges, and we want to be responsive. So in November, I got a document across my desk that had been started in August. And so then I started to trace the document and said, okay, why did it take 4 months for the document to travel up the 580 and get to an office in here and come across to my office? The first thing I recognized is that there were about 16 signatures that were required on the document. So the first thing I said was, look, if the president and the vice president said they needed it and the finance people said there's money, then I don't need the signature of every single person in order to do this particular thing. And then I went over to each office and interviewed the people in the offices, saying, why did it take a document 2 weeks to go from this door to that door? And then why did it take the document 2 weeks to go from that door to across the hall, and then another 2 weeks to come down to my office? And we just really deconstructed the process. So I made a commitment that nothing sits on my desk more than 2 days without me responding. Nothing sits more than 2 days. So imagine if throughout the district, that's the commitment we make throughout the district. Then it turns a document that takes 4 to 5 months to travel, to process, and by the end people are trying to develop workarounds and try to fix things, and people are mad because they're not getting paid, and somebody else is mad because the purchase order is not done, and we're sued because we didn't pay this company, et cetera. But imagine if instead of taking 5 months, it took a work week. And the way in which we would be being responsive to the colleges and to the faculty and staff in doing that. That's an example, that's one tiny example of showing up differently and implementing leadership and living up to leadership standards of excellence. And with that, I'll go on to the excellent colleges and ask the college presidents to tell a little bit about their colleges.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Chancellor Stanback-Stroud, for inviting me to come back, and to the Berkeley City College faculty for continuing to be so amazing. I was thrilled when I returned to Berkeley City College to see such a strong administrative team. We have an incredible vice president of instruction with Cooney Hay, and a really great vice president of student services with Dr. Stacy Shears. I do agree. Much of the reason why I came back was I absolutely loved Berkeley City College. It was my favorite job in education in 33 years. And walking back in the door made me realize why. Community colleges, absolutely, as you say, Chancellor, are the equity engine of the area. And we are here to help our students build cultural and social capital. And our faculty and staff help do that every single day. It happened this weekend and the past weekend when our administrative teams came out and opened the college on Saturday to say, come in, let's make sure we can enroll you. We had over 200 students enroll in those 2 days. It's the faculty leading an incredible professional development day of how do we look at what, and asking themselves, how do we change what we're offering to serve our students and community, to grow our enrollment, and help with those guided pathways to professions. It's our student services team and researchers saying, hey, yes, we have changed our demographics, and I did ask that exactly, because when I left Berkeley City College, we were right about 20% African American, 20% Latino, 20% Asian, 20% white, and 20% multi-race ethnicity. And I have a note to follow up tomorrow, because I do think you're right that that's some of what we're losing is doing that outreach. So ensuring we do outreach. You heard a bit about our Hispanic Serving Institution grant, because we now are over 25% Latino, Latina, and we are reaching out for a Title V grant to bring in over $3 million over 5 years. And I feel confident with the team we'll be able to do that. I know you said just a couple of sentences, so I'll just say it's thrilling to be back. It was a great opening of spring 2020. We're looking to make sure we build a schedule to serve our students for the fall and really help grow not only Berkeley City College, but Peralta, to ensure successful accreditation and the response to all the FCMAT comments. So thank you again, Chancellor and Board. So great to see so many of you and a few new faces. Yeah, thank you.
I echo many of the sentiments Dr. Budd shared, and tonight I've elected with the Chancellor's approval to showcase one of the highlights that Laney has, and I hope you'll check out the Peralta Gems as well. We've been featured in the New Yorker and other places as well, but this was a particular one we should share tonight.
Laney football, it's like hard to put in words. Just so much goes into like a single practice.
It definitely requires a certain type of person to play football here at Laney. Real character.
Last year we were the state champions and we were ranked the #1 team in the nation. At the same time, CJ Anderson, who's a Laney alum, is making his third run in the Super Bowl with the Rams. All this going on, and the producers at Last Chance U reached out and said, hey, are you interested in being on Last Chance U?
This is not the same programs they've been highlighting for years before. This is a very different and unique program. I unequivocally don't think we're the last choice for students. We are the first choice. We are the best choice in every unbeatable way. We're really thinking about like, how do we make sure that we're training and educating students to be prepared for that next step that they're going to take, and see this as a catapult for them to transfer and to go on to meet their academic and career goals.
We have a 90% transfer rate and graduation rate. We take young men and young women here at Laney and help them continue on their journey for a positive outcome, which to me is an education. You know, football, when you look out here, that's the biggest classroom at Laney College. So we teach them football skills and football rules and lessons, but really what we're teaching is life lessons.
They're looking out for you as a person first before the game. So everything they teach you, the motivation to become a better person every day with the skills to be a better player.
They don't really let anybody slide, and that's what I like about it. It keeps you very accountable, keeping your toes.
It's definitely helped me develop as the person and the man I want to be.
One of the things I remember them always saying to me is that, you know, regardless of how football plays out in college or making it to the NFL or whatever, at the end of the day, make sure that you take care of the academic side of business to ensure that you get your college degree. That's always been put first here.
the teachers at Oakland and Laney, they did not care that you were an athlete. You know, if anything, they required more of you that you were an athlete.
If they catch us out of class, oh yeah, we're gonna have to run bleachers and run laps. It's just called hell, you know. We know that football doesn't last forever, you know, but the education that you get is gonna last forever.
Here in Oakland, they see a barrier because they've been told all their life that education's not for them. Well, my job is to find a way around the barrier, over the barrier, or through the barrier. I've surrounded this team and this department with men and women who have grown up in this community and have made it.
Laney College has always been filled with some of the most inspirational coaches and faculty members. These people are so dedicated to helping people grow and reach their full potential. Having Laney in the heart of Oakland has really allowed it to be available and accessible to everyone. It has always been this place where people come to grow, to thrive, to grind it out in only that Oakland way, to upskill and make more money so that they can sustain the community and their families.
Laney College is a comprehensive college that offers a number of programs, both those for transfer pathways and those who are going into career education pathways.
There's a lot of success stories that came out of Laney, you know, from doctors, from people that made it to the NFL, and we have all a mixture of different businesses and different careers that came out of Laney. I ended up getting my Bachelor's of Science degree in business management. I ended up working at a barbershop, and after working there a year, I ended up buying the shop.
I didn't want to do community college because I always thought like the community college was for the kids that didn't know anything. But once I started doing my research and stuff, I figured out that the community college is like a great route to take due to the fact that you get the help, you get the money, get your prereqs done, start on your major, and you'll be surprised at how many people actually can get their 4-year degree faster when they come this route.
Right now, I am on track to be a physics major, but I definitely still want to be a football coach.
I'm majoring in kinesiology. I plan at the moment to get into like athletic training. I think if I work hard enough, the Laney program and its reputation will help me to take my education further somewhere else.
I mean, it's one of those places that, I mean, I'll hold dear to my heart, you know, for the rest of my life, of what they did for me, what they've done for my friends who otherwise wouldn't have got to go to 4-year colleges.
My hope for every student at Laney is that we've given them the platform to rise up and go and fly to where they want to go next.
I use this hashtag Laney Built, Oakland Proud. Come to Laney, let us build you, and let's be proud that we are here in Oakland.
Good evening, good evening. Good evening to the Chancellor Board, students, faculty, administrators, and community members. I have a few items to share with you this evening, but I want to begin by saying thank you. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity last Thursday to host District Flex Day. I'm very pleased with the turnout and was particularly struck by the engaging addresses and workshops and presentations. And I hope that everyone who attended District Flex found the day as informative and as spirited as I did. We are excited to be partnering with the Diversity in Health Training Institute this spring term. The focus of DHTI is to support newcomers to America with their health career aspirations by providing professional skills, workshops, job placement with healthcare employers, and academic preparation. The latter is where Merritt College comes in. We are offering our first spring student cohort, and we're offering 2 courses, one in medical assisting and one in intercultural communications. Dr. Littles is spearheading that, and he and I will keep you apprised of our progress and success. Another thing we need to let you know, in the interest of providing the support that they need, we have extended the hours for student services at Merritt College for the next 2 weeks. Given that we have students coming in to address their counseling and financial aid and A&R needs, it's imperative that we ensure that they have this access. We're also going to be reopening our food bank beginning this Thursday from 12:30 until we have served every student or have run out of provisions. Yesterday, Merritt College hosted the MLK I Have a Dream basketball tournament. Student athletes from four of our local high schools, Fremont, Skyline, Oakland Tech, and Oakland High, had the opportunity to showcase their talents and come experience the Merritt campus. And while my alma mater, Oakland High, did not fare too well, we lost by 20, we are pleased to have the opportunity to host them. And finally, on February 1st, 2020, the Barbara Lee and Elihu Harris Lecture Series will feature a talk by the Honorable James Clyburn, Congressman from South Carolina, District 6. For those of you who don't know, he's a leader in the House of Representatives and a civil rights icon. And so we invite you to come to Merritt to share in this singular experience. Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat the date one more time?
February 1st.
Thank you. Cool. Hi, greetings from the island and COA. It's a great time. It's our first day of a new semester, so there's a lot of energy on all of our campuses, and we're so excited to have all of our faculty and our students back enrolling. It's been kind of quiet, just me and the geese over the winter time, so it's good to see people again. I just have one brief highlight to give, and really it's just a shout out to one community member, because we have people throughout our 5 cities that give to Peralta in many small ways, and they go unnoticed and unrecognized many times, but their support means everything to us and our students many times. So I just want to bring up one community member. His name's Dhruv Patel. He owns a hotel in Alameda. I'll make this story short. And I was just having a chat with him at a break at the directors of the Alameda Chamber of Commerce. We're just chatting. And after me chatting for a while, like you see I do, it led to me driving to his hotel a couple hours later, putting in my little Honda Civic 12 cases of those little hotel shampoos, conditioners, soaps, and all that. So my Honda Civic was like loaded. I was greedy. I'm like, give me more. And I drove him back to campus, and now we have a whole supply we gave to our students. For any student who needs these types of materials can have them for free. And we have our showers open, of course, on all of our campuses. And now I know where to go, because now I know all the people at that hotel. So I'm like, when we run out, I'm hooked up. And it was just one of these ways that he gave without anything, And I think that's just what is so wonderful about Peralta, our area of northern Alameda County and our 5 cities, that people are so willing to give either at the ballot or in these little ways to make all of our students and our faculty successful. So that's just what I want to share tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's the end of my report.
Thank you for that. That was great. All 4 campuses, wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing. We will move on to item 3.1, which is consider acceptance of the Peralta Community College District June 30th, 2019 annual audit report and presentation of the report. So we're doing 2 pieces. We're getting a presentation. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Harrison. I am the engagement partner for Ide Bailey, who oversees the Peralta Community College District Audit. I've been able to meet many of you. Welcome back, Dr. Budd. I will make a brief presentation over the audit report, but I want to open up to any questions at the end if anyone has any questions over the audit. You did this year receive an unmodified opinion as adjusted. That means we made material adjustments to the financial statements, but we believe that the financial statements as presented in the audit report are free of material misstatements, so we believe that the numbers are going to be accurate. We did have, like I said, a couple audit adjustments that led to some findings that we had in the report, and I'll go through those in a little bit. That unmodified opinion is on page 2, but I won't go through every page. I would like for you to go to page 5. I always tell all board members, whenever you receive an audit report, one of the first steps you want to go to is you want to go to the management discussion and analysis. What this does is this is the summary of the whole 106-page report. It brings into summary highlighted budget information, selected highlighted economic factors that affect the financial statements, and it is presented by management, but we actually perform audit procedures over there to confirm that the information in this part of the report is in conformity with the remaining portion of the audit. So it's always a summary level, so you could get about 5 to 10 pages of reading the financial data without having to read the whole 105-page report. So this is always the good spot to start. I do want to jump. I'm going to jump pretty far. I'm going to jump to page 106. This is called our summary of auditors' results. This kind of brings everything together for all the audits that we have. These financial statements are those of the district's management. They present us the financial information, and what our responsibility is to do is to provide an opinion over the financial statements. We actually provide 3 opinions to the district. One is over the financial statements as a whole. That means the numbers, the accuracy of the numbers. We also issue an opinion over the federal awards, and also issue an opinion over your state awards. In the current year, we had 3 material weaknesses that we noted in the current year. One was for the closing process over the district, which was a repeat finding from the prior year. And the fixed asset one was a repeat one as well. The new one was the internal service fund had a deficit fund balance, and the vacation accrual balance exceeded the allowable amount set by the board policies. So that was the significant deficiency we had. Over the federal awards, we audited your student financial aid, which is about 95% of your total federal dollars. We issued an unmodified opinion. That we didn't believe that the findings were material enough to qualify the program, but we did believe that the significant deficiencies were compliance issues that needed to be communicated to management and those in charge of governance. And then we had 3 significant deficiencies over the state awards program. This was a qualified opinion over the residency, apprenticeship, and the EPA funds in this current fiscal year. Those findings, I won't go into detail each one of them, but those are found on page 107 through 121. That's the summary of our information, but I want to open it up to any questions that the board members have or anyone has for the report.
Thank you. Thank you. So do we have any questions at this time? Trustee Brown.
Yeah, I had a question regarding the residency determination and the number of the sample of students taken, and actually my question about the residency has, I guess, more to do with if the audit looked at the process. That's been a particularly sensitive subject for students because of not just residency with regard to documentation, but also housing insecurity, because some of the second tier methods of proving residency have to do with whether you have utility bills or whether you have some proof that you've lived somewhere for a year. And I'm wondering, and I guess I'm wondering what the sample size is part of the question, but the other question is, did the audit look at process with regard to determining residency in light of the issues that we're experiencing in this particular area around housing insecurity? Because it's almost, you could be here for 3 years and not have a permanent residence because you can't afford it. So
Yes, we do look at the process of how you determine if the individual is a resident. So the district uses CCC apply. So we look to verify that the district is implementing that procedure. They verify that they are a resident. So what we look to see if they meet the standards of being a resident, and the Peralta Community College District does the due diligence over the residency determination. So we will look to see if, one of the things that we looked at here, the reason why you'll see that sample size, this is going to be ones that we see in CCC applied. You can get kicked out and it'll say you're a resident, a number 2. Number 1 is a resident, I think number 2 is unclassified, and 3 is a non-resident. So we looked here, that sample size for the 34 students is the ones that we looked at to see, okay, for people that were classified as a number 2, did you go in there and verify that those students were actual residents? And that's where the error rate came from. That's why the sample size is a little lower than our total population that we do sampling over residents. Because we do test by campus more than just 34 students. That's just that population that we had the error rate in.
So that 34 42 is the reflection of the error reading when you looked at CCC apply. It's, okay.
Yes. So that's the way we look at we look at how the district determines residence. If they use CCC apply, we go through and verify, okay, are you using that correctly? Is that information consistent with the information that you're being provided? Were there any changes made? If anything was changed, we look at that to see. That's what we consider kind of a higher risk population whenever changes are made outside of what CCC applied has classified them as. So there's different parameters of what we look at, different populations for the residency that we look at.
And just the last question is, in the past, we've had the similar unqualified audit, and it was against the context of the thought that there was going to be a huge audit findings because we have fiscal deficit, because we have declining enrollment, we have those issues. So once again, we have an unqualified audit, and we are looking at process. In this review, it appears to be a continuation of a similar conversation, that we're looking at process, and that our real issues are regarding more of a outreach, because we've heard very poignant discussions from PAW and from our faculty members here that we have to get into the community and we have to do the outreach. But that's a conversation that we had in 2016. It was real then. I think now it's coming a lot more home. And I guess my question is, it appears as though we're still dealing with process because the budget only tells us what is happening in terms of process financially. It doesn't tell us the other things that go into a financial reading, which have to do with human, the human capital. Are we actually getting out there in the community, bringing people in, retaining them, graduating them, which would then address our enrollment issue and our retention issue? But we're not going to see it in the audit. It's not going to be there.
So I kind of want to break it down into two responses there. The first response I would say is, you received an unmodified opinion. That means your financial statements as a whole, we believe, are free of material misstatement. But you also have, I think, 3-4 material weaknesses, one over this process, the closing process. So the unmodified opinion would be, the way you would receive anything other than an unmodified opinion is if your financial statements were incorrect. We believe as adjusted, as we did propose audit adjustments, they're correct as is. So there are unmodified opinions. That doesn't mean that there aren't material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, and we have it over your closing process and your control environment. That's 2019-001. So there are material weaknesses noted in here. It doesn't mean that your unmodified opinion over your financial statements. You qualified opinion over your state compliance and unmodified over the federal, but still had 3 significant deficiencies there. The second part to the question was, this is going to be a financial statement audit, so we're going to provide you information over your financial statement. I think the information that you're looking for if you're getting if you're utilizing the individuals correctly, that's going to be more of a management assessment audit. I think you see that more kind of when you guys have seen the FICMAT report. I know that's something I really want to talk about, but the FICMAT report is going to go in and assess your management team. We're assessing your financial data that they're providing you and the financial records here. So those are kind of 2 different things. It's a little different. It's a little hard to say, but those 2 are going to give you 2 different avenues and aspects. We're talking about the numbers and the information that is here, like what's the liabilities, what's your control processes over reporting the information of financial data to the board. That's a little bit different than kind of seeing about FTS growth going up and down. It's a little different than the actual financial statement audit report.
Thank you.
I hope, okay.
That's what I want.
Student trustee.
How did you come up with the sample size? How did you determine that? Could you speak into the mic, please?
I think I hit it. So our oversight gives us leeway of how to determine a sample size. Either if it's a population over a certain threshold, we're able to use 10%. If it's under, you could use 10%. If over that, you have to use 25, 40, 60. We do a risk assessment approach. So we look at a different area and determine if it's a high risk or if it's a low risk area. And then we're able to adjust our audit sampling size based off of if we determine this risk to be a higher risk area. So it'll vary from every different compliance area. We're going to have different sample sizes. So what we test in federal compliance could be different from state compliance. What we test at one college could be different from another college because the population at one college could be a little higher than at another college. So that's how our sample sizes are determined based off of our experience and based off of the actual population size.
Thank you.
Trustee Weinstein?
Thank you, and thank you for doing this. One really simple thing, page 5. I just wanted to check under the selected highlights. When it says this represents 11.9% increase, do you mean increase or decrease?
This right here on the 11.9 where it says at the bottom on the chart, I'm sorry.
Selected highlights, there's kind of a, starts with the district's primary funding sources based upon apportionment received. In the, yeah, that bullet. So if you keep going down, you're comparing it, and then it says,
It should say decrease.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so I spent a long time trying to figure that one out. Okay. Okay, so we're doing this pretty fast. And so I want to ask that we slow it down, if that would be okay. If you would just slow down a little bit while you're talking to us, okay? It seems to me that this is very similar to the one that we had last year, and maybe very similar to the one we had the year before. So what I'm trying to figure out is, once you give us this, since in the last couple years, some things have been changed, some things have been not, how can we make sure that those material weaknesses or significant deficiencies are going to be changed and that we are going to know about it?
That's a question
So
for this.
in the back of the report, I can only talk about in the back of the report, we report on prior year findings as well.
Okay.
So you'll see on page 122, starting on 122 were the findings from the prior year.
Mhm.
And it'll let you know at the bottom of each finding, it says what the current status of this is. And you'll see as in 2018-001, it says not implemented. You can see the current year finding 2019-001 to show that it's been a continuous finding. And that's
Okay.
the same thing with page 124. It says not implemented. See current year finding 2019-002. So these are findings that were in 2018 that have been repeated in 2019.
Okay. Okay, so just one other. So I think the last question, I think the Chancellor is going to, I'm hoping that the Chancellor is going to speak to. I think how we follow up on this. But, you know, when we look at these things, for instance, and we look at 124, the return of Title IV funds, for instance. So we're not utilizing the funds that we're getting?
So this finding on 124 was 2018, so it was last year's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's another one, though, I think, in the recent one.
Yes, in 2000, on page 113 is the current year.
Okay.
So there's requirements for student financial aid. One of the requirements is the return to Title IV. So with return to Title IV, there's certain requirements that you have to perform the calculation within 45 days. You have to return the funds within 45 days. Those are the findings that's what these findings represent. Not that they're not using the student financial assistance monies correctly. It's they're not in compliance with these set compliance requirements for the student financial aid program, for the 45-day requirement that they are returning student funds.
Yeah, so they're not returning it within 45 days?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a problem?
Yes, that's a compliance requirement that each district has to do the calculation and return the monies within a certain time period.
So when this happens, like with any of these, when we don't follow and there's a significant or material weakness, let's just take this, is there any consequences to that, state consequences?
The federal government will can assess the finding and determine the severity of the finding, and they could put you on probation. They could take the funding from you. There's many different things that they have the ability to do because they are your oversight agents.
Okay.
So when they provide the money to you and they feel that you're not using the funds correctly or you're not implementing the compliance requirements, they have the ability to do that. It has not been their practice in the past because they do want to keep the money to serve the students.
Sure.
But it always puts you at a higher risk when you have the comments.
So it's a serious issue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reese?
Hi there. Last year, or the last time you were here, I inundated you with OPEB questions, so this time I promise I'm not going to do that. Mine are actually simpler. To carry on or to dovetail with what Trustee Weinstein had just said, and only I'm not being particularly persnickety, but it's just that this is an audit. I just want to make sure the information that's written here is correct. So she had told you about page 5. On page 6, when you were talking about the bond measures, you have measures A and E when it should be measures A and G on page 6. And then also below, you have only measure B proceeds, and it should be B and E. Just again, because it's particularly important that we have the right measures and bonds there. And then also on page 12, 66% as opposed to 68%, only because this is an audit, which is why I'm being very particular. But my more major 3 questions are you ready for those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The closing process. As you said, it's a repeat finding. I've got that. And the question that I have for you is, as we look at the condition and as we look at the implementation of the corrective action plan, the question that I have is, at what point, because the reason I'm asking this is that last year when we had questioned the Vice Chancellor of Finance, and I believe you were here too as well, we had gotten the statement that the items were not reconciled, and therefore the actual statement was there was no integrity in the budget data that we were looking at. So the question that I have for you, given that this is a repeat finding, at what point should we expect the reconciliations from the previous year? So we're looking at 2019, we're still in the corrective action plan, it has not yet been implemented, but for 2018, have those, or at what point, what is the normal range of time for the reconciliation process, if it had not been done at the time of your audit, for it to be completed?
So normally, so you close your year end is June 30th, 2019, this year. Normal closing process at many districts would have their books closed by October. And that would be a fair statement that says the majority has their books closed by October. That's what you would expect to see is about October.
Then my second question to that is, then could we safely assume that in the 2019 audit here, that the reconciliation for 2018 has in fact been completed at this time?
2018?
Right, because there were items that were still open at the time of your audit. And so when we had been speaking to the Vice Chancellor, he said that there were items that were still not reconciled. And so for me, that is a big, big black hole in terms of what does that then mean for our data? So could you assure that by the time you finish this 2019 audit, all that was in, or most, or all, that was in question in terms of our data and reconciliation from the 2018 that did not happen at the audit would be, in fact, be done, or would you have found that again? I guess is my question.
So the way that the audit takes place is we're provided what we call a trial balance with the numbers, and the information is provided to us by the district. When we provide you this information, these numbers have been adjusted, so we propose audit adjustment to reconcile those numbers. So when we provide you the numbers, they're closed now. The books are closed now, and they have been reconciled, but they were required to have audit adjustments that we provided to the district to make sure they reconcile their numbers, to make sure that they're accurate. So the numbers are closed and reconciled, but it was adjusted numbers that are reconciled. So we had to adjust the numbers to the correct amounts that was not included in the trial balance.
Chancellor, may I direct my question to Vice Chancellor Crow? Because I don't know if you remember, it was a while ago. Yes, I may? Okay. When we had this conversation with Vice Chancellor of Finance,
Johnson?
VC Harrison, he had said, and you also came up to the podium and also tried to clarify a little bit of what he was saying, that was post the audit, and he had said that there were still reconciliations that had not been done, and therefore there was no, the data was not accurate. Yes, could you speak to that?
Yes, I
If you
recall that.
remember, yes.
And it's my understanding that those reconciliations occurred shortly after.
Okay.
And as the auditor has stated, the books are closed and they're corrected per their adjustments. If I may just add one more thing, because I think it gets to some of the questions being asked, and that is that many of the findings, and I'm not a vice chancellor, but just for correction, I'm working primarily on the FCMAT recommendations, and the FCMAT and the findings do overlap, and there are a number that are due to lack of personnel in key positions.
Right.
So that does two things: not having the people to do the work, but also not being able to have the position separation of duties. And so we have also made great progress in the last couple of months in the permissions given to people and additional people doing the work. And then we also have searches in process for an internal auditor that will be doing training for our staff to make sure that we're following the recommendations both from our audit and from FCMAT.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. My second question goes to comparing the 2019 finding, the 2018 findings, and the repeat findings between those 2 years. There seems to be three things that are important in order for us to be able to close the loop, to consider our internal controls. And the three things that I saw as being part of the corrective action plan and the recommendation were technology, having the support systems within technology, which is also mentioned in the CBT and the FCMAT report, as well as training in terms of human resources and the individuals, as well as the documentation of evidence, or evidence that's retained, evidence that's clear. And I guess this question would pivot over to the Chancellor in terms of technology is so important, right? For sure. But that has been such an expensive and incomplete and fragmented and haphazard, and I'm sure I could put in many more adjectives to describe that. And so it's not just merely, if I understand this correctly, it's not just merely adding one more thing to help that out. It is a far bigger structural endeavor to actually make the technological components of this implementation possible. So that's a big question in terms of how that might play out, and when might we be expecting it, and how long and how expensive might that be. And then, of course, the training and the documentation of evidence as a culture of evidence would be two other things that I would love for you to speak on, please.
Thank you, Trustee Napoli-Abella-Reese. This issue speaks directly to the presentation that we made to the board identifying the need to complete or integrate the final 4 modules of PeopleSoft. Right. And we presented that it would likely take the resources of about $1.5 million and would likely take, liberally 10 months, conservatively a year and a half for us to make it all happen. And we are in the process now of pulling that plan together to prepare it for a board item. So I have confidence that we're going to be able to implement the technology and get a lot of these things done. And Dr. Crow is right. We have also done made a tremendous amount of progress in terms of the staffing and the processes that hopefully that when we get to this issue the next year, that we're not entertaining some of the same findings. The other thing is we are addressing things very specifically. So for an example, like in the financial aid, we are doing a district-wide strategy on the financial aid issue, bringing in a consultant to help us identify those best practices that are throughout this district and make them common so that there is some consistency between the 4 colleges and how we're doing the different practices and processes of financial aid. So all of that is being addressed, and I do have confidence that we're going to be able to address those, and we won't be in this position next year when we're having the audit report presented.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, Trustee Weinstein?
So I brought this up last time, but I just wanted to make sure that it's actually articulated. When we spoke about this, we spoke about follow-up the next year to have some kind of a report to the board that any number of months you can decide that you can come back and say, or you can come back and say, whoever's the appropriate person to come back and say, this is where we are with the audit, these are the places that we've made progress, these are the places we're working on. Can we get that assurance?
Pardon me, Trustee. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I documented as a report to the board on the status and progress of the corrective action plan. So we will make that. I'm looking at doing a midterm report and then subsequent, depending on the board's request for additional information.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So, okay. And I have one last thing, and it may not be appropriate exactly in this situation, but it could be close to it. I know when I first came in, or maybe the second year that I was here, there were committees, and there was a finance committee. And I don't know if the finance committee dealt with the audit issue or not. But one thing I will say is that I'm going to make the assumption that if there is a finance committee, that they will delve in a little bit deeper, and they will be able to share that with the rest of the trustees. I'm just wondering if it's something that would be helpful to us. And I know you have some reservation about the membership and stuff, but I'm just wondering if that would be helpful.
So you did ask me about that, and I am doing some research on that. I've surveyed all of the CEOs in on the listserv in the state and asked for information and guidance with regard to board committee so that I could provide that information to you all, and you all can make the best decision. And what I am finding is that commonly for districts that do have board committees, they have a finance and audit committee so that they can focus specifically on that. And then also that throughout the state, there is no district in the state at all that has members other than board members who are part of the board committee. So I plan on pulling all of that information together for you, giving it to the board, and then you all as a board can make your best decisions regarding your organization if you want to have board committees. So I'm finding 2 common committees. One is the Budget and Audit Committee, and the other one is a Student Success Committee, and then less common but present in the conversations around the committee is a Community Outreach Committee, so that the board can focus on their kind of ambassador roles in the community. And then one district did say that they had a fund development committee or a resource development committee that was really more about the board supporting the district and the foundation and connecting to networks in order to, support resource development. But budget and student success were the primary 2 committees that I'm seeing come up.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Trustee Withrow? You're okay. Anyone else? Yes, Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
Thank you so much for your work here and for presenting. First of all, I just have a procedural question. There were these 2, so in the back of the budget book, there are a number of kind of letters, and then there are these 2 that are separate and that are in the front. Is there some significance to the separation of these 2 dealing with business type activities and Yeah, they all seem to be dated the same date, but they're not in, and I was trying to figure out, is there some significance to their separation?
So our auditing standards have us, or we're required to make certain communications with those charged with governance, which would be the Board of Trustees. So one of the letters that you have there is, there's 3 types of deficiencies that are communicated. One's a control deficiency, one's a significant deficiency, and one's a material weakness. Control deficiencies, we believe they are not best practice. That means the district's not doing best practices. We think that they're small, but they're not creating material weaknesses. They're not creating audit adjustments, but they are things that we think that if implemented, you'd have better controls. That's one of the letters that we have there. The second letter is we have a communication with you if we had any difficulties with management, if we had to use any other outside auditors, any disagreements with management. That's the letter that we have on the other one. That's the separation that we have. And we have, in the letters, you'll see that we did not have any disagreements with management. We didn't have to do any other outside consultings, and we didn't have any difficulties encountered. Peralta has always been forthcoming with information. When we do ask for stuff, we do get the information once they have tried to reconcile it. We've never had any problems with management where we felt that they weren't providing us the information when we were requesting it. It wasn't that they were trying to hide anything like that. That's where we would put in that second letter if we had any of those things. Honestly, this is a formal letter, but if we had disagreements with management, this wouldn't be the first time you would see it. We would have already had a communication with you all and let you all know that we were having some difficulties with management. But this is just a formal letter that lets you know that that is the information that we're documenting and communicating to you, that we did not have any of those. That's the 2 separations of the letters.
Okay, great. And now I have some questions about these letters. The first has to do with it's a 6-page letter, and it begins in planning and performing our audit, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this has to do with the revolving bank account reconciliation, and it appears that some funds that are coming into the district aren't being either deposited or reported in a timely manner. Is that what I'm getting from this?
It's the reconciliation of the revolving account. There's many stale dated items in there, so you'll have a bank number there, and then the amount that's on the general ledger basically has these reconciling items, but many of them are stale dated and they need to be investigated a little bit more.
I see. Okay, so on page 2, you draw attention to the worker compensation fund, and you write that it appears that the fund is paying additional insurance claims other than the worker compensation claims, but I don't have a sense of the scope of the problem here. Is this a minor problem? Was this a major problem? What's the scope of the dollar amount that we're talking about in terms of money being paid out of the wrong fund here?
I won't be able to give you specific dollar amounts, but we didn't feel that it was material to the whole financial statements of the district. That's why it's in here. So it's smaller dollars than the actual, what we call material weaknesses and significant deficiency. So the dollar amount is not as material. So that's the reason why it would be just considered a control deficiency. But I would have to look into there and give you the numbers. I don't want to just throw a number out there.
Were those items that were eventually reconciled? That is, they eventually caught it and they said, oh, we're paying money out of this fund and we shouldn't be paying money out of this fund. We're now going to pay back that money and then pay it out of the correct fund?
I wouldn't be able to give you that information. That would be management, because after our audit, we provided them this communication. I don't know if they've made any changes since when we did our audit as of the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, but it was your finding that this was a relatively insignificant thing. It was more of a technical problem than an egregious, like, oh my goodness, they're paying $500,000 out of the wrong fund. That's what I'm trying to get, because I read it and it's like, we're paying insurance claims other than the workers' compensation claims out of that fund. And so when I read that as a layperson, that sounds like a pretty serious problem.
I would think that it was an issue that needs to be addressed, definitely. I wouldn't say that we would have any material, we wouldn't note it as a material adjustment right now. I think that it probably does need to be looked at and see the significance of it a little bit more, of seeing how much the dollar amount is. For us, we look at it from, we're all material, we deal with numbers. So if it's under a certain threshold for us, we'll say that it's a control deficiency.
Okay.
Now, from an operational management, you could consider it significant, but we didn't think that it was significant to the financial statements.
What is that material threshold for this item?
Oh, I would definitely have to look at my work papers. I'm sorry. I really don't know specifically off the top of my head.
Ballpark?
I would not even be able to, I deal with so
All
many
right.
different districts. I don't know specifically over this item what the materiality would be. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So just coming down on credit card use policy, said the policy was out of date, noted personal contacts were no longer with the district. Was that the occasion for further investigation to see whether in fact that led to any misuse of the credit cards?
We didn't have any misuse of the credit cards. We didn't have any discrepancies in the purchases of the credit cards. We just noted that the policy needed to be updated.
Okay. Moving along, there was a recommendation regarding Berkeley City College's cashier's office, and it noted that in your sample, there were delays of up to 49 days. It appears from my reading that the normal process would have been that it should have been done within 30 days, so that was maybe 19 days late, if I'm reading this correctly. And then the recommendation was that the district should, or that the college should consider doing this through the district office instead. Now, I fast forward then a couple pages, and I'm looking at the recommendation and the observation regarding the district receding process. So in Berkeley City College, there was a problem. It was 19 days late. But then over in the district office, it was up to, of the 40 tested, there were 6 that were later than 14 days, some up to 185 days. And so I'm trying to figure out, the recommendation is that we move these to the district office.
So what we're trying to get here is that when you have cash being collected at so many different sites, there's always elements of errors that could happen.
Right.
A central process needs to be, central process of cash receipting is always the best practices. That way, all the receipts go through one process, all of them are deposited the same way. So that's the reason why we normally recommend that you have it at a central location that does the receipting process.
And then the central location needs to get its act together to
Yes.
get it right. Were these primarily, I noticed in a lot of our reports in our finance office we're understaffed. In your opinion, is that what's going on here, that we just don't have the personnel, or is this a training matter? Or what's going on that we're seeing so many errors like this? Help me understand as a lay person trying to engage in fiscal oversight, what's probably going on here?
I would say all of the above. I think it's training. It's the number of individuals that you have in all different areas. I think all of those coming together would help implement this. I think there needs to be more, there could be more training, there could be more interaction between the different departments, there could be more systems, more IT systems being used. It's a little bit of all of those, so I would say all of the above. It needs to be kind of a scope that needs to be implemented together.
Okay. I just want to spend a minute on this other letter. And on page 2 of this other letter, we're talking about corrected and uncorrected misstatements. And these were misstatements of fund balances. And so I'm trying to understand what these are because, again, as a layperson, and I know Trustee Withrow likes to make fun of my lack of knowledge, and I'm just trying to get a little better educated here. So when I read these fund balance misstatements, they look kind of big to me. The first one says that in the general fund, we had to increase the fund balance by $2.3 million to get it correct. Explain what that means in layperson's terms. What happened there that some number was off by $2.3 million?
Sorry. So on page 91 of the audit report, you don't have to go there, but it breaks out these numbers. It breaks out what account number was adjusted to come to this $2.3 million. So here it was a deferred revenue amount of $1.8 million that was incorrectly booked as deferred revenue that we had to adjust it out. Deferred revenue is monies that you have received and you are going to use them in future terms. This program was a program that was not subject to deferred revenue. You take it right into the fund balance, so we had to do an audit adjustment there. So that one was the deferred revenue was about $1.8 million. Accounts payable had to be adjusted about $500,000.
Okay, and on and on and on. And then if I look at all of the adjustments, it seemed like there were about $9 million of adjustments where we had to decrease the fund balance, and then maybe 2.3 or so where we had to increase the fund balance. And what I'm trying to understand from an operational perspective, like if you're trying to understand where we are at any given time during the year, how does this affect our ability to do our business? Is this being like, we have no idea where we are because we're off by $9 million and sort of the accumulation of we
So it's kind of hard to say. The way that the accounting for schools is on a modified accrual basis. A lot of these reconciliations are done at year end. So a lot of the accruals are going to be done at year end. Closing out programs are only done at year end. So a lot of these errors are the closing out process, and you're going to get those differences at year end. So to say that you absolutely don't know where you're at, I don't know if that would be completely accurate. I would say that there's adjustments that are probably warranted, but I wouldn't say that there's no way you know.
Well, let me restate it, because again, I don't know what's within the realm of normal. So if you take, let's say, most of the other districts in the state that are of comparable size, and we found fund balance inaccuracies of this magnitude, is that normal that you would then we're going to do these adjustments at the end? Everybody does this. We just haven't caught up with it, or is this more in the realm of extraordinary? And again, I ask again because the dollar amounts are shocking.
So no, I wouldn't say this was normal. This isn't the normal process. These are large numbers. There's many districts that have audit reports that don't have any adjustments. They don't have the material weakness finding that they have over the closing process, but it's been consistent for many years. Is it normal? No, it's not normal. Is it what the matter of fact where we're at here? Yes. But no, it's not what every district has is numbers like this for audit adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Withrow.
First of all, I'd like to comment that I find this audit report to be well written. The type of document that we learn from that makes our operation come alive. I'm listening to the questions relative to normal and whatever, and I've seen many, many audits over my lifetime. Given the fact that we have such a shortage of staff over the course of the last year, especially in the finance department, but throughout, I mean, in the colleges, a shortfall of staff. I think that it's amazingly good, quite frankly. Certainly not perfect. Certainly all of the whole delineation of areas that need to be looked at, worked on, tightened up on, communicated, and the controls that are necessary. But my gut feel is, Chancellor, for those that participated in this process are due kudos, quite frankly. We can look through and focus on all of the defects in the system and whatever, but again, I think they did quite well. And I, for one, think that these are the kind of areas that, especially given the fact that we're trying to recoup put together a staff that's going to be here for a while, whatever, that we can correct this in pretty short order. I've never liked the term normal. I just don't like that. And I would agree with you. I don't know how you would define what normal is, but contrary to some of the dialogue here, I'm very pleased. And again, I want to segue from Trustee Weinstein's comment that whether we have a finance committee, which I would endorse. But Chancellor, I think we need to have, and Board President, I think we need to have a workshop using this document as an educational tool to make all of these areas come alive and have them be put into perspective. Again, it's a real learning vehicle. It's an educational vehicle. Thank you.
Thank
you. Trustee Brown.
I have a question regarding the manner that community colleges are funded and the deferred revenue, because it's my understanding that revenue comes in through grants or through allocations from the state, and that oftentimes it comes in and the college presidents are working on delivering the instruction and the academic programs, and there may be funding that is earmarked for a particular thing that comes in at different times of the year. I know that sometimes the college presidents are trying to make the funds stretch. They're trying to get their programs going. The revenue it's deferred revenue. You have to get it after you've made met certain preconditions or after certain periods of time. That's something that I learned through our Finance and Audit Committee, actually, that we had before, and sitting around, talking with chancellors regarding academic programs and student success. So my question regarding the deferred revenue is that I presume that to be categorical funds that were specifically for academic programs, and that the cash reconciliation has a lot to do with the amounts that we're paying off for goods and services, the amounts that we're paying for vendors. So when I read this audit, some of the discrepancies I looked at as being discrepancies in funding that was earmarked for categorical funds, because we have a large amount in an educational institution, a large amount of the dollars are allocated for specific things. The cash reconciliations in educational institutions often have to do with the ongoing payments that are your purchasing department as well. So is that and that is the message that I received when I read this, that our primary weakness is that we have to have the level of training that can identify what is a deferred revenue payment, a categorical academic program payment, and then we have to have the mechanism, the operational software, the training to be able to mechanize the reconciliation, so it's not done with a lot of manual effort, which is what we've been doing, and that's where the transposition errors come in, or other errors. So I just want to make sure that I'm reading this that way, because that's the way I read it, but I don't necessarily hear that coming out of some of the questions that have been asked, and I want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting the audit.
So I think with this audit report, and when we talk about the closing process, it comes back to kind of the question of what needs to be implemented. It's the training, it's the staff, it's the systems that need to address that. Something like deferred revenue. The deferred revenue accounting standards, there's different ways of receding monies that come from the state. You're going to have some that are subject to deferred revenue and some that come through as what they call entitlements. So that means they go straight to your fund balance. That means you have to restrict those dollars in the future. But if you incorrectly defer a program that should have been coming in through as entitlement, that's where we make an audit adjustment and say your fund balance should actually be this amount. It's a timing difference. It's just a timing thing, but it's still, for correct purposes of accounting, it needs to be adjusted. So I think that comes through with personnel. Consistent personnel is very, very important, and consistent personnel that gets trained is very important. I think that's kind of where the discussion, I guess, these comments that I'm trying, I guess I would be saying that is significant, is definitely those are the things I would look at to help rectify these.
And the meaningfulness of that, as I read it, is that the entitlement programs are usually programs that are Title III or Title I. Our students need the programs, and such with the deferred revenue. They're generally funds that are going to support the same programs that one of our our public comment speaker spoke so eloquently about, we need the programs to support the students that are in our service district. So that is the takeaway that I got, that it's significant because it affects student success directly, because if we're not journaling it correctly, it's not available for the presidents when they're trying to implement these programs. So I just want to make sure that that my read is accurate, because I'm seeing it as an issue that speaks to student success in the sense that the more accurate we could get with the process and the more efficient we could get with journaling things correctly, then we could deliver the programs without having to sort of make a bridge when the money's not there when it's supposed to be there, which is what I watch our presidents do, unfortunately, all too often, because they're looking at, they're trying to pay people and get the services to the students. It's not there. So that's what I see as the real impact of this. And is that, because we are actually an academic institution. But I just want to make sure that that is accurate, because I don't want to have the wrong interpretation of what this audit is saying.
That's a little, it's a little more difficult for me to do that, because that's like me putting myself into the president's shoes and tell you what they go through from the county standpoint, what information they get from there.
That is the piece, yes. I'm adding my own observations to what this means.
Okay, so I was like, maybe, so I don't want to go that, but yes, accurate information is the best way to provide the best student services. If they have accurate data, accurate budgeted data, accurate reconciled items, yes, that will return the efficiency that you provide the student services. I believe that is a true statement. Now, to make management decisions, that's not what I do. What I do is I let you know where your deficiencies are, and I think that management would make the decisions from there to see how they could best get the reconciled information to the individuals that need it to provide the students the services that they need. That is not a decision that I would know how to make that. I'm not here every day.
No, just wasn't asking. I just want to make sure, when I look at it, I'm thinking, how does this affect the students? And it's not necessarily that you're looking at it and you don't know what your balance is, because it's not a general fund balance. It's a balance of categorical funds and entitlement funds, which are going to the people that live in the area that I represent, which have a need for the services. So I'm looking at it through a particular lens, a student services lens, a delivery of academic instruction lens, but that's how I read it. So I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
And on the grounds of incrimination, you do not have to answer that question. However, I do think that we have grilled you and put you through the ringer, because that's what we do best. Okay. And I love my trustees for all of this, all of the questions. I'm looking at the Chancellor, and I know that she is hearing this loud and clear, and that she has taken wonderful and copious notes. And that we are definitely, and I'd like to echo Trustee Withrow and Trustee Weinstein's suggestion, especially as they talk about follow-up on these items, on the budget, on the audit, through the Budget and Audit Committee consideration. I would love to dive deeper into that with you, Chancellor. But at this point, I want to thank you for your for your patience and just for your kindness in answering some very difficult questions for us.
I thank you very much. I really do appreciate the questions. I really do. I try to answer them the best as I possibly can. Sometimes it's just harder for me being from the outside eyes, but I really do appreciate the questions and the thoughts that you guys have and the questions. I mean, I really do want to give you the information I could best possibly give you from my outside eyes.
And you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
At this point, we will do roll call on the acceptance of the budget. Thank you.
On the audit?
Acceptance of the audit.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napolia Bellaris?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are moving into public hearing and action item on 4.1. This is a public hearing on the initial study mitigation negative declaration for Merritt Community College Child Care Development Center project. And we are also considering adoption of resolution number 19/20-20, adopting the initial study mitigated negative declaration on CEQA findings, mitigation measures, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the project and approving the project. Are these two separate, can I get clarification? We have to do separate roll call. Separate roll call. Yeah, I want my gavel.
Please take it. I don't want it.
I didn't know if I had to gavel this in. I was like, what? Yes. So we will gavel in the hearing, gavel out the hearing, and then we. And do we have public comment on this item? Seeing none.
Now you gavel out.
Now I gavel you out. I was looking for that gavel. I was missing it. Okay. And so we'll do roll call on this particular, on the hearing. Thank you. Just on the resolution. Okay, we'll do roll call on the resolution. Thank you.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Bellarice?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion carries.
Thank you. And just for clarification, that was 4.1 on the hearing and 4.2 on the resolution. Okay, I just didn't read them out that way, so I just wanted to make sure. We'll move to consent calendar 5.1.
Motion to accept or approve the consent calendar.
To approve and a second consent calendar.
Except for those items.
I think they're still discussing. That's okay.
Sorry, President. If you could, back on 4.1, we do need one more approval of the project. So it was a three-part item. There's first the hearing, then the resolution adoption, and then we need the project approval.
So 4.2 is the actual, okay, so let's go ahead and take 4.2. I'm not going to read the entire motion for you, but can
Move
we have?
approval.
We have, in a second. Roll call, please.
So this is the motion to approve the project. Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
We're adopting the neg deck, right? We adopted the resolution, now it's the neg deck, not the project, right?
You've already approved the motion was for all of those four things combined, which is approving the neg deck and all the mitigation measures. Now you just have to approve the choice.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Napoli-Bellarice?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move back to consent, and I believe we had a motion to approve by Trustee Withrow and a second by Trustee Reese. And roll call.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
I had one question on this item that I didn't have an opportunity to ask. May I ask it at this point? The consent calendar. So on item 7.5, which is the budget calendar, there's an elaborate description of the district processes. Is there somewhere integrated or available a calendar of the college timelines for budget development? There isn't a calendar of college timelines on this calendar, and I'm wondering where and how the college development of calendars, budget et cetera, fits in. Is there a document that describes that?
So I'll let pardon me. I'll let the college presidents give more specificity. This is the overall district budget. We provide this to the colleges, and in the context of their governance processes, they work with these dates so they know when they can anticipate the district budget, the projections, and we take into consideration all that takes place. For an example, there's a period between January and the May revise and those types of things.
And
all of that gets incorporated
I
here.
don't need the chapter and verse of it. All I want to see is where it is somewhere. I presume there's a document somewhere on each campus that in some way is integrated with these, and if somebody can point me to them.
I'll ask the presidents to speak to what they have
Okay,
available in their
thank you.
budget, in their governance process.
So I can speak for Laney College, and I think it probably follows for most of the colleges. We use the district timeline as a benchmark for when we develop our college processes and procedures. Most of our colleges go through our program review cycle in the fall term, which then leads into our requests for budget allocation, and those are evaluated in the beginning of the spring term by our shared governance committees, who then evaluate and make recommendations through the governance process at Laney, and then move forward to the College Council to make recommendations on our adopted budget. Laney's done a 2-year budget the last 2 years. Things have been flat, or we've taken reductions the last several years, so we actually haven't implemented our full budget allocation model that we adopted a couple of years ago, but we do use the process as outlined and try to mirror the deadlines we need to meet for the district.
And if I may follow up. So is there somewhere a written document that where I could look and then reference the district budget timeline with the college budget timelines so that I could say, oh, okay, so here is a district proposal, and now here is the mechanism through which colleges assess, interact with, et cetera, the district processes. Is there in fact on each campus a written schedule of that timeline?
Yes, Trustee. I think all the colleges have that through their budget committee. It's ironic you would say that. I can hand them to you after, actually.
That would be brilliant.
All right.
Thank you very much. Yes, I vote yes on the consent calendar.
Thank you. Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Brown? Yes. Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese?
Yes.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to the action calendar, and we will take 5.2. And that was pulled by?
I pulled that.
Trustee Gonzalez-Schwinn. Yes.
I think there needs to be a motion and a second and then discussion.
I move approval.
Second.
Thank you. So I fully expect that I am in the minority on this, but I will point out, so this is an item that raises the threshold for the Chancellor's authorization to engage in a contract from $25,000 to $50,000. And one of the things that I'm going to just point out is that we have an administrative procedure, 6340, which calls for a regular and timely report of all such contracts. I am absolutely certain that we as a district have not been complying with this administrative procedure. That is, there are numerous contracts that fly under the radar. That fly under the radar of, in the past, $25,000, and the board never sees them at all. And so what I am fervently hoping is that as we raise this limit from $25,000 to $50,000, the administration will begin to, and this is a brand new administration, so I have no reason to doubt this administration's adherence to administrative procedure, but I will respectfully request that the administration begin to comply with that so that all contracts, whether they are above or below that threshold, come before the board in a timely manner as laid out in administrative procedures. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And roll call. The item's been moved and seconded.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
No.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move to item. Yes. Trustee Handy.
I don't understand the reason to the need to throw shade on this. We have not had any challenges or contracts that have been given out that's never come back to the board, and I just want to make it clear for those who are listening out there, that is one person's opinion. And that has not been a problem, and maybe it's a problem somewhere else, but I really don't appreciate when we're kind of put into a, like we're in agreement on something and we're not. So I appreciate and I trust the administration. There's absolutely no reason to be throwing shade on it, and I don't expect that there will be any challenges with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Trustee Handy. We'll move to item 8.1, consider approval of personnel items. It's been moved to action.
Move approval.
Yes, 8.1. We have a motion to approve. I need a second.
I second.
Thank you. Discussion.
I pulled this and moved this to action, and again, I will repeat my position that I do not believe that we should be dealing with administrative personnel matters in the public session. I think these would be better, more appropriately handled in closed session, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
No.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. I see here under action items 10.1, we have, nominations. I'm sorry, 10.1, consider Board of Trustee nominations of CCCT Board election for the state. And I would like to make a recommendation that we move forward Trustee VP Weinstein's name.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Wrong?
10.1.
10.1.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Is Weinstein the VP? No. Abella Reese.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
Trustee Weinstein, please. I'm sorry, 10.1, consider Board of Trustee, this is Board of Trustee nomination? 10.1, 10.1.
Oh, we're doing the CCCT?
This is CCCT.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I'm going to take back what I said, and
Yeah.
I'm going to hand it over to Trustee Weinstein.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I was handing it back.
Okay. Call on me, please.
That's how it, but I'd be glad to make a nomination.
Oh, thank you.
So I would like to nominate Trustee Napoli Abella Reese.
And I'll second that nomination.
Do we have any other nominations?
Do you have any other nominations?
Negative. Yes, we need a roll call on, yes.
Thank you. Student Trustee Stanley?
No.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
No.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Abstain.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10.2, consider adoption of Resolution 19-20/2021 declaring the futility of public bidding and approve the change order number 10 to the construction agreement with W.E. Lyons for Laney College Best Center, bid number 14/15/11, which extends the completion date to June 30th, 2020, and increases the contract amount by $26,965.78. May I have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
And a second. Questions? Trustee Gonzalez.
So this is a building over at Laney College. I noticed that this building is last time I went, it was just sitting there, almost completed, but not. And it's been that way for about 2 years. It seems to me we started building this building 1,000 years ago. And for years, this building has just sat there. And I'm trying to understand why. What is it that is holding up this important environmental building? Literally years. It's like been sitting there like, and?
Chancellor.
Yes, I'd like to ask Vice Chancellor Sata.
The answer to your question, Trustee, is that the building has not been closed out at DSA, the Department of State Architect.
Could you elaborate?
Every building that we do has to be certified by the Department of the State Architect, and this building was not completed.
But could you elaborate, like why, like who's in charge? Is this DSA? Is this DSA is just like, we asked them to come and certify it, but for years they've just like sat on their hands? Or is there, what is our explanation? Because this is literally years where this building has sat there more or less empty.
Okay, so during construction, the faculty changed the design without working with the architect, who was obligated to submit the proper documents to DSA for approval prior to constructing the project. So when we found this out, DSA was not willing to just sign on the drawings because they hadn't seen them. So we have rehired the architect to change the drawings to match the construction conditions that are in the field. And then we will then take it back to DSA for approval and eventually for certification. But that does require not only the architect and the engineer to do their work, it also requires us to have the inspector of record and other officials sign off both on the drawings and on the change condition in the field.
Okay, I think I'm hearing that there's a backstory here, and I'll just let this go. Thank you.
Trustee VP Reese, yes.
I'm sorry, did you say faculty changed the design, or Chancellor?
Will you elaborate on that, please? I don't understand.
I was not here at the time, but this is what I've been told.
So in the course of the work, it seems that there is a practice that that faculty have been able to define some needs, and I don't know that there were processes sufficiently set to go through the capital process in order to make sure it's consistent with the appropriate practices. So I think that people were just trying to do good work. They were trying to identify the needs of their programs and services, and the result was changes were made, and it didn't enjoy the standards of practice that it should have. So we have been very careful. We don't want to disparage the faculty just simply because they care, but so we've tried to fix it, and that's what Vice Chancellor Sata has done. He's been at their service working through the DSA process. They don't have a way of knowing some of those things that are required, which is why it's very important for us to make sure that the decision-making is in the appropriate spot, and that's one of the things that I'm really focusing on. Yeah.
May I ask one potentially unanswerable question? We are at 5 million now, and we are not close to being done. Do we have a sense of how much more this may cost and how, when DSA, once the design is redone and goes through the approval, what's our potential timeline here?
Can I ask Vice Chancellor Sata to answer that question?
It's not knowable how long DSA will take to re-review the documents, but we've asked for you to approve a contract extension through June 30th, 2020. The drawings should be completed early in February, and then we would resubmit them to DSA. Once they're approved, again, we have to go through the whole approval and inspection process, so that will take some amount of time. And in terms of the funding, this should be the last change order for the contractor. And you've already approved the architect's contract. So really the final step is we don't expect any additional funding changes on this project at this point in time. But it will be contingent upon what the inspectors and DSA tell us.
Thank you for that. We'll move forward with roll call.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown? Trustee Napolia-Bella-Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10.3, consider adoption of Resolution 19/2022, declaring the futility of public bidding and ratification of Amendment 2 to the purchase agreement for fire alarm emergency panel repairs with Johnson Controls Fire Protection, LP, to separate the fire alarm network in an amount not to exceed $78,000. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yeah, I just have one question for clarification. These are the same Johnson Control upgrades that were the standard increase, right? The not betterment, but they were the clarification of what the appropriate standards were for the fire life safety that we were implementing at the last meeting with respect to other buildings?
So this is the second half of that same piece. The last piece you approved was what we call the additional annunciator panels. This is now the software programming that has to happen to allow those to operate properly.
This is the voice behind the enunciation.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And just as a reminder to trustees, these are ratifications. I'm going to read 10.4, also ratification. Consider adoption of a resolution 9/2030 declaring the futility of bidding, public bidding, and ratification of Amendment Number 1 to Kone Inc. Master Agreement for District-Wide Elevator Maintenance, Repair, and Modernization at Berkeley City College through January 31st, 2020, in the amount of $9,780.47 to allow for the modernization of the cabin operating panel box in Elevator 5 at BCC. Motion to approve.
I motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
So clarification, Board President, is we did not finish the roll call for the last motion.
Okay.
We stopped at Trustee Brown's question, so if I can just finish the motion from 10.3.
Stop
So
me
Trustee Brown?
anytime you need to.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Which one are we voting on?
We are voting on our previous agenda item 10.3.
I'm all good, yes.
Okay. Trustee Napolia-Bella-Reese? Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Are you sure we didn't do all
We did
that?
it. Yeah, we did it.
10.4, I already read it, and we had a motion, it's been approved, and roll call, thank you.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein, Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese, and Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10.5, consider adoption of Resolution 19/2031, intention of the governing board of Peralta Community College District, and convey a public utility easement. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second? And it's been second. And Chancellor.
Yes, thank you, President Bonilla. On this item, I just need to make a couple of typo corrections before you vote. And that is that it identifies the hearing as being on February 6th. It's actually February 4th. And that's in the resolution as well as the description. And then the second thing is on the table that identifies the date and deadline for, are you following? That identifies the date and deadline. The Monday, January 27th should read Saturday, January 25th, and the Saturday, February 1st should read Thursday, January 30th. So it was just typos in those dates that we received.
Thank you. And those will be corrected and
Yes.
updated?
Yes.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
We'll go ahead and take roll call. Thank you. Oh, we have a question. Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
I had raised this question before. There's an indication of the intent as depicted in attachment 1. And when I look at attachment 1 in the main document, my page is completely blank. Now, there is a second document, and I just want to confirm that second document, the big headline is grant of easement. And I want to confirm that the intent is outlined in this grant of easement and that that is substantially what attachment 1 would be. Now, maybe somebody else has a different version of the thing.
I have both attachments.
Right, but,
I have both.
okay,
This is
yeah.
It's the grant of easement, and then it's the drawing to show where they're going to put the utility.
I see that later down, but on the main motion itself, the document refers to attachment 1. The very last page of that document says attachment 1, and then that page is blank.
Oh, they put the standard is they put the drawing behind it when they do the reso, but the reso is blank because we haven't approved it.
Right.
So I'm just trying to confirm that the other attachment that starts with grant of deed and all of that is in fact the attachment 1 that we should be referring to. I don't want to be giving away some huge plot of land that I can't tell is there.
We couldn't anyway, because we wouldn't have gone through the process. You're safe.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We can proceed with roll call. Thank you.
Student Trustee Stanley,
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Handy, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yep.
Trustee Weinstein, Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese,
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to board trustee reports. Trustee Withrow.
We have a major census coming up here shortly in this year. And just in our area, Alameda County and the cities involved are looking for a tremendous number of people to do the census. I've been in contact with a couple senior executives, and they like the idea of using students, flexible hours, and $25 an hour pay. I think this is something that maybe the student trustees could promote for us. I think it fits.
I think that's the end of his report.
Thank you. Student trustee. Trustee Handy. Student trustee.
Like it is a big year for census, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, especially when it comes to voting. So myself, and hopefully, I know Stanley will, we will do our part and spread this not just at Berkeley City College, which is our home campus, but all the campuses, because everybody needs to be aware and how important it is. 2020, it is. Also, it is a job opportunity for students, which are very much in need of jobs right now. So this is something positive. Also, I will relate it not just to the district here, but I will also be with my constituents throughout the state of California on how important Census 2020 is, and to make sure that not just here in Alameda County, but as well as the other counties throughout the state of California and our fellow community college sister colleges are also aware of the importance of Census 2020, and for them to make sure that on our next monthly meeting, it is also presented there, and we will be in touch on Thursday, so I will relay this as well to them.
Thank you for that. Trustee Brown?
Yeah, I'm just actually texting to get the Alameda County Census outreach person that does the hiring to see if she could come to a meeting or come here. So I will put this down right now. But what I was going to say is that I very much appreciated the focus that we had on dialogue regarding the cultural backgrounds, cultural competency, outreach. Those are discussions that are very long, I guess I should say long waiting in Peralta. We really do need a climate survey. Dr. Gilkerson was with me at Eastmont Mall, and we were trying to find a storefront to try and work on maybe providing some contract ed classes or some introductory classes or certificates. We understand that there's a cost of ownership, and we've got buildings here that are not full and that we have declining enrollment, but we have also a need to bridge the gap that for people who don't feel that they could enroll in school, and we saw how brilliantly Laney was doing that through their athletic program. Sometimes you need to show people in their own backyard that what's possible. And there are also discussions about partnering with Lincoln Center, which provides mental health services for women and children. We have had these conversations throughout the year. We've made some overtures, but we really need to continue and not get distracted going from crisis to crisis. In terms of an outreach report, that was, we did have, there was a meeting last Saturday, a community meeting where there were adult people that wanted to come back to college. They were saying, what can Peralta, can I go back to school? What can they do for me? And every time I go to a community meeting and talk about education, self-determination, and a way to liberate yourself from the insecurities, housing insecurity, job insecurity, healthcare insecurity, using education as a tool, there are people that say, how can I get to Peralta? So our speakers tonight were absolutely right. There's a need, there's a desire. There are people that are really waiting for these opportunities, trying to figure out how they could do it, and they do need the outreach. They need the overtures from us. And, we started this in, 2015, going around doing the outreach, and then Dr. Brown turned the outreach into enrollment management. And so we've institutionalized it, but we really, I think, need to put our shoulder into it. And so I applaud the Chancellor in organizing the meetings within the Peralta community and meeting with members of the community. But it's right to say that the people are still there and the educational need is still there. And as we look at the FCMAT recommendations regarding downsizing, we see that because we have been working on other things, important things, but not quite the level of outreach that could address the enrollment issues, now we've come to the cliff, and we have consequences that could be still mitigated and abated if we could get a move on with this outreach. And as trustees, that's what I see a primary role as being governance, but governance also for the specific purpose of serving the community where we are located. And I think that with focus on that, on serving the community, I think we can resolve the fiscal issues that we have that are tied to the declining enrollment, because people will come where they're wanted and where they're served. So several community meetings. I won't name all of them. I will say that because of Trustee Handy and Trustee Bonilla, I now have an opportunity to bring some issues to the ACCT Diversity and Equity Committee, the National Trustee Organization, to support formerly incarcerated students, to discuss in a national forum LGBTQ support groups within community colleges, and also closing the achievement gap. So they kind of threw me into the volcano, but I'll get the work done and then try and extricate myself from the lava.
Trustee Weinstein.
Thanks. I've had the opportunity for a while now, but even more so recently, to work with AAUW in Berkeley. And they're really working to build their organization, and part of what they are encouraging is for college girls, and particularly community college girls, who want to attend a conference on leadership, young women's leadership. And I'd like to be able to try to put some information out there about how to apply for it, because it's fully funded, and I think it takes place at University of Maryland. And I think I feel really passionately about the community college students and young women being involved with AAUW. It used to be just university women, but it's also now community college women. So I've been involved with that and continuing to help build that project. Also, you know, one of the things that I think of because of my background as a psychologist and working with drugs and alcohol is that there's a number of alcohol and drug programs out there that are residential, that are at least 6 months, and sometimes more than that, and that might be a place where students want to take classes and want to have access to classes, and it is good for them and it's good for their recovery. So that's something that I'm beginning to think about, as well as a number of senior people who also are saying, you know, what can I take at Laney? Maybe not at nighttime because they don't want to drive at night, but what can they take during the day, and is there something that they can particularly do? So I think we have a lot of options and a lot of populations that we just haven't really reached out to, and so I'm beginning to do that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
I'll just take a brief moment to note that today was the start of classes at Peralta, and that does not happen without a lot of work from faculty, staff, and administrators who take their break to actually get ready for the thousands of students who came into classes today. And so I want to just extend a thanks and an acknowledgement of that work. Nicely done. There's a lot of excitement going on right now on our campuses as students come back in, and we have big thank you to extend to you all and to the other people who work in this district. Thank you.
Also, don't forget the students, because we do have student workers that did work through the break.
Thank you very much.
Right,
Romina.
so thank you to the students as well. I mean, we do love our administrators, faculty, and staff, but
Yeah.
also the students.
Yeah, thank you.
VP Reese.
I just returned from the ACCJC Commission meeting, which was 3 days in San Diego, and it was wonderful to see the great work that many of our colleges across the state are doing in preparation for accreditation, after accreditation, also for students. And I'm not sure if all of you know, but probably you do, Dr. Richard Wynn is stepping down, but the new president-elect is Dr. Stephanie Droker. Dr. Richard Wynn was wonderful in being the face of ACCJC for the past 3 years. He really was externally facing and has done a lot in regaining the credibility and cultivating the relationships with institutions. So that's been really incredible. And we believe strongly that Dr. Stephanie Droker will actually continue to tread that path forward in a very, very good way. And secondly, Dr. Kimberly King over at Laney faculty had sent me a little bit before the holidays a 2017 survey of the Peralta District for housing insecurity and food insecurity. And it gave me a sense of the number of students at each of the colleges that and regarding housing insecurity or identifying as housing insecure. And one of the things that I had seen there was that we were at 607 housing insecure students in 2017. And my ambitious plan 3 days before Christmas was to have a holiday party at my house where I did two things. And one of the things that I did was to actually have our guests bring 400 gifts for children who needed gifts, but also to bring 100 sleeping bags for Laney College. Overly ambitious because it was 3 days before the holiday. So we've collected 15, and I am going to continue on in January for the other 85 that I need to do, which still doesn't meet the 177, but I also encourage my other trustees to my right and to my left to have your own parties so that we could also get sleeping bags and such for Merritt, for BCC, as well as for COA students.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you. Yes, we got to figure out how to contribute.
I'm not there yet.
That's okay. That's okay. So I would like to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year.
Yes.
That starts this Saturday. So super exciting. And I want to give a shout out and make sure I got this right. Dr. Tamil Gilkerson, were you a speaker at the Women's March on Saturday? Yes. I knew I read that right. I was like, there's only one Tamil Gilkerson that I know. So congratulations. That was awesome. The march was fantastic. And then I also want to just make a quick announcement. The Port of Oakland announced its internship application process today. I have shared it with all of my colleagues and trustees, as well as with our board clerk, Brenda Martinez, who will be distributing it widely through all 4 of our campuses. This opportunity is phenomenal. It will be a summer internship. You will get to work internally in any one of our many, many departments and divisions. The port has 3 business lines: aviation, commercial real estate, and seaport operations. And so there's everything from accounting opportunities to communication to government affairs to workforce development, on education and training. So tons of opportunity. There will be 26 interns that will be invited to come in and work with us over the summer who are college interns, and 6 high school students specifically from McClymonds High School that will come in and work for us, with us. So please share widely and encourage students to apply. With that, I will close our session. Thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, we have
A couple announcements.
announcements.
The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on February 4th at the district offices. The second announcement is that the board welcomes our students back and wishes them a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful semester.
Thank you.
I was going to say Happy Lunar New Year on the High Five Joy. Oh, she did. Okay,
Gun
I
High
did not
Five
hear you.
Joy.
I think I was trying to get that census number.
Thank you, everyone. The meeting's adjourned.